All right, here we go. Now, here's an example of a quadratic function in vertex form. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to use this form to answer some questions about the function and the behavior of the function. So the first thing is they ask us to determine does it open upward or downward? Okay, so in this case here, what's the answer? Well, if we look at A, now in this case, A is -2, right? And so in this case, A is negative, right? So that means the parabola opens downward. So the graph of the function, the parabola, opens downward. Now, what's the vertex? Now remember, the vertex is h comma k. So in this case here, remember the general form is A times the quantity x minus h plus k, right? So quantity x minus h squared plus k. So h here is 1, k is 8. So that's going to be 1, 8. So the vertex is located at 1, 8. Okay, now it says determine the x-intercepts or intercept. There might be 1 or 2, or there might be none, depending. Now, so in this case here, we want to, how do we find the x-intercepts? We have to solve it, set the function equal to 0, right? We have to set y equal to 0, and then find out what the x values are. So we're going to say, basically, we're going to solve f of x equal to 0, right? So in this case here, let's do that. So we're going to set this equal to 0, right? Okay, and so now what do? We solve for x. And so now we're going to move the 8 over to the other side. So we're going to subtract 8, which is going to give us -2 times x minus 1 quantity squared equals -8, and then we're going to divide both sides by -2. And so that's going to give us x minus 1 quantity squared equals 4. And now if we take the square root of both sides, we get x minus 1 equals plus or minus the square root of 4, which we know equals plus or minus 2. And so now x equals, now we're going to add 1 to both sides, which gives us x equals -1, excuse me, +1. We're going to add 1 to both sides, so it gives us +1 plus or minus 2. So that means what? That means x is going to equal either 3 or -1. So those are the x-intercepts. What are the x-intercepts going to be? The x-intercepts is going to be either 3, 0, or, well, I should say or, but so there are 2 x-intercepts, and one is 3, 0, the other is going to be -1, 0. All right, now what about the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is when is the value of y when x is 0, right? So let's now just set x equal to 0, so that's the easier one, because it's just plug and chug. So at this point, we're going to take, oops, I erased my function. F of x equals -2 x minus 1 quantity squared plus 8. Okay, so now at this point, I'm just finding f of 0. That for the y-intercept, right? So now f of 0 equals negative 2 times the quantity 0 minus 1, quantity squared, plus 8. Well, this is just going to give me negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. So 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. So I get negative 2 plus 8, which gives me 6. So that tells me that there is a y-intercept. And the y-intercept is, well, there's always going to be a y-intercept here. So the y-intercept equals 0, 6. All right, now they want us to sketch the graph. Okay, now, so if we sketch the graph, let me redo this. Okay, so here we go. So now what did we find? So if we want to sketch the graph, well, one, we found the vertex. Well, right, the vertex is negative 1, 8, right? So negative 1, 8 is going to be up here. Over here. So negative 1, 8, so about right there. I was trying to avoid getting messy. And then the x-intercepts was at 3 and negative 1, right? So 3 and negative 1. Oh, hold on a second. Oh, I'm sorry, 1. 1 and 8. Is it 1 and 8? Sorry about that. So 1 and 8 is our vertex. And then there was the x-intercepts were at 3 and negative 1. And then our y-intercept was at 6. 0, right? So 0, 6. Which is right here, which makes sense. And so now the parabola, see now what I did was, all I did was plot the points that we know, the vertex and the intercepts. And so that really helps us. Now here's the thing, now I didn't mention this in the last video, so I'm going to mention it now, but there's the axis of symmetry. Now the axis of symmetry goes right through the vertex. It's the line, right? It's the vertical line that goes straight through the vertex, where the left half of the parabola is exactly like the right half. So we can draw an axis of symmetry right through x equal to 1. Okay? And so we can use the x symmetry to plot another point if we wanted to, right? So we know that if there's the y-intercept is here, then we know the y-intercept is going to be, there's another point that's going to be mirror image of the y-intercept. So if there's going to be one here at 0, 6, then we know there's going to be another one over here, same distance, at 2, 6. So we could put another one right there. And so now we've got more points that will help us plot the parabola. All right. Now what about so the next question was, where is the axis symmetry? Now here's the thing, because of what I just said, the axis of symmetry would be at at x equals h, right? So in this case here, the axis of symmetry is always x equals h. And in this case, h is 1. So the axis of symmetry is x equal to 1. Now, determine the max or minimum. Well, in this case, there is a maximum value, right? And the maximum value is the vertex, as we said before. And we want to know what the value of the maximum is in this case. So the value of the maximum is what? It's located at 1, 8. So the value of it, right, is the value of the vertex. So f of 1 equals 8. So the value of the maximum is 8, right? So we're talking about the y value. And then the domain and range, well, you could see by the graph, but because it's a quadratic function, there's no restricted values on the domain, so you can put any value of x in here, all real numbers, right? So again, we want to write this in interval notation. So this would be, the domain would be -infinity to +infinity. Now the thing is because there's no restrictions on the domain, there's also, we can see that there's no restrictions on the range. There's nothing that can't come out of this thing. And even looking at the graph, it goes to, the range is going to be restricted because the maximum value is at 8, but there's no minimum value. So in this case here, the range is going to be what? It's going to go from 8 to -infinity. So it's going to go from -infinity, and the maximum value is going to be 8. And that is it. Have a great day.